edition of Not in My Neighborhood. Do you know how full the school buses are in your school district? Tonight we will be investigating how your tax dollars are being wasted on inefficient bus routes.
We are happy to welcome two Catskill School Board representatives. Welcome Mr. Jeffries, the business manager for the Central Catskill School District, and Ms. Smith, school board representative. We have looked at the numbers and it appears you have 5 full-size buses only being filled half the capacity with students. What do you plan to do to correct this waste of taxpayers' hard-earned money? Why have you not combined the route already?
Well, we cannot combine the routes because it would exceed the state allotted amount of time, 45 minutes on a school bus. We can't buy that. We can't go past that. The rest is a complicated question. We have several options to consider. We're exploring smaller buses and more routes. We're still taking that into consideration. Smaller buses cost $27,000 each, where a full bus costs $90,000. A lot of money to waste. Both of which we would depreciate straight line depreciation.
The cost of full bus purchase is irrelevant because you already own 5 of them. Also, depreciation has no place in this discussion as we are talking about cash flow. Are you just trying to confuse the people in this area?
Okay. Not all. We're trying to give our viewers, your viewers, the information we provide, transparency in resolving this issue.
We appreciate your candor. Can you discuss how much it would cost to make more routes and redesign the layout?
Excellent question. At this time, we are looking at $15,250 to redesign the routes. However, that price also includes informing the public of these changes, install caution signs, and train drivers. Luckily, we would not have to change the compensation to the employees regardless of which type of bus we decide to use. However, we would need to hire 3 more drivers as we would go from 5 full buses to 8 minibuses, thus creating a new and more jobs for our residents.
If the school district were to switch to minibuses, would it happen to be full-size buses that are currently in possession?
That is the second part of the situation that we need to consider and have spent a lot of time discussing it. Currently, we're considering using them for field trips and athletic events.
For our viewers, the school district currently uses a charter company for this purpose. It costs $30,000 annually.
That's correct. If we were to use the full-size buses, it would cut that annual cost by $5,000, which would be only feasible for the remainder of the bus's life. Currently estimated at 5 more years, which, in case you were wondering, minibuses have the projected lifespan of 5 years. Or if we decided to continue using the charter company, we could sell the full-size buses for $15,000, totaling in $75,000.
$75,000, big money. Sweet!
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. We will get the mathematics a little later in the segment. Mr. Jeffries, we have it on good authority that before the calculations were in, the MPV was in favor of keeping the full-size buses, and you were preparing to recommend that the board not purchase the minibuses. However, your racket club buddy, Peter Reynolds, owns an automobile dealership.
Meow, what makes you bring up Reynolds?
This video does.
Hey, Pete.
Hey, Michael, how you doing, man?
Good, bud. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. How's the family? How's life?
Life, family, they're all good. We're all good.
Fantastic.
So how can I help you?
So, I've been thinking about your offer, and I'm not going to recommend it. It doesn't make sense for us.
Well, Michael, I hate to pull this card, man, but you and I go back a long time. And also, I heard through the grapevine that you actually are leading the school district. And it just so happens one of our top financial people are retiring next year, and I would like you to come and work for the dealership.
That's tempting. It's really tempting. I don't know, man. It sounds iffy.
Sure, Michael, take your time. Take all the time that you need. In the meantime, how about rethinking that minibus decision? It's no big deal to you, but I could sure use a business.
All right, let me think it over. I can't guarantee, but let me think about it. I'll see what I can do.
Come on, Michael, no problem. What are friends for?
Good seeing you, bud.
You too, man.
Let's talk about those numbers. Before we begin, though, we would like to give our viewers some background information on what are IRR and NPV. How do they differ from each other? Please take a look at this information.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today as we go over net present value. We're going to look into the Board of Education's decision to keep full-size buses, buy minibuses, create new routes, or keep the old. So please stay tuned as we go over some of the math. The Board of Education has two choices: use the full-size buses on regular routes or use minibuses on shorter routes. If the Board of Education uses the minibuses, then there are two options for the full-size buses. Option 1, sell them now for $15,000. Option 2, keep the buses.
Hello, this is Sheba from financetrain.com. In this video, I will discuss how to calculate the net present value of a project. The net present value is the most commonly used measure used to decide whether to invest in a project or not. The net present value of a project is equal to the sum of the present value of all after-tax cash flows from the project minus the initial investment. So what we are essentially saying is that if the project will earn us so much money in each of the coming years, what will be the value of that money earned in today's terms? So we will get the present value of the future cash flows from the business. We know how much we have invested in the business. So NPV is the difference between these two. The investment decision using the NPV method will be based on whether the NPV is positive or negative. The NPV will be positive if the present value of all future earning is more than the money invested. A positive NPV indicates that the project is worth investing in. On the other hand, a negative NPV indicates that investing in the project will not be wise. The formula on screen is used to calculate the NPV of a project. The numerator represents the cash flow at time t. R represents the discount rate chosen to calculate the present value. This is also the desired rate from the project. T represents the number of periods for which we will receive the cash flows. Let's take a simple example to illustrate the calculation of NPV. Assume that your company is looking at investing $100 million in a capital project. The project will return post-tax cash flow of $30 million for 3 years and $50 million for the 4th year. Assume a discount rate of 10%. As you can see, the present value of all future cash flows is $108.76 million after considering a desired rate of 10%. This investment can be done for $100 million today. The wealth of the investor will increase by $8.76 million. Therefore, the investor should invest in this project. Thank you. Visit FinanceTrain.
Before we examine the best decision for the Board of Education, we're going to show you a short video about net present value. This is the net present value analysis of whether or not the Board of Education should sell the buses or keep them in reserve. If the Board of Education were to sell the full-size buses, they could profit $75,000. However, if they were to keep them in reserve, they could profit $90,125. Because option 2 is higher, then the Board of Education should keep the full-size buses on reserve. The next question we had to look at for the Board of Education was the net present value of full-size buses versus minibuses in new or old routes. Option number 1, full-size buses. The net savings is $36,000. Option 2, minibuses and new shorter routes, a negative $11,345. The net present value for acquiring minibuses is negative, so that means that the Board of Education should not purchase the minibuses. Next, the Board of Education needs to look at the internal rate of return in order to make a decision on whether or not to keep the full-size buses or to invest in minibuses. The IRR is a metric used in capital budgeting, measuring the profitability of potential investments. Internal rate of return is a discount rate that makes the net present value, the NPV, of all cash flows from a particular project equal to 0. So let's take a look at that. So what is the IRR on the minibus acquisition? If you take a look at the calculations below, the total initial investment is $231,250. The annuity factor for the IRR is going to be $231,250 divided the net savings of $61,000. This is going to bring us at 3.7%. So if we look at the chart on the next slide, you'll see what the percentage would be for the IRR. After looking at the NPV and the IRR, the Board of Education should keep the full-size buses and save money. Thank you so much for your time today, and now back to our hosts.
There you have it, viewers. Your school board representatives have figured out the best way to spend your taxpayer money. Thank you for viewing our segment tonight, and please stay classy, ACC-650.